Well, hi. Welcome back. It's nice to see you all again. So today is going to be another entertainment episode. Matthew and I are going to be looking at some of the new stuff that just came out. We are going to talk about Super Brawly, the new Dragon Ball Z movie. Check it out. Yeah, you saw that. And if you didn't see that because you're listening to this on a podcast directory, I'm wearing a Dragon Ball Z shirt. We're going to make some production plans for some of the movies that are never going to get made, and we don't have a say in it anyway. But we'll be choosing the cast for some of that stuff. Do a lot of not MMA, anime. And we actually make that same mistake in the podcast. This is an MMA episode. But yeah, get ready, guys. We're gonna set the stage today for some in-depth reviews we're gonna be doing. I know we're looking at getting into Brawl on Cell Block 99. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out. Before we come out with our next episode, I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a review on that with spoilers. We've been talking about this for a while. We haven't gotten around to it yet. We're gonna do a Mandy episode and just a couple new things. Definitely watch the trailers for Soul Man and Tippy Toes, or Tiptoes, whichever one it is labeled as. Those are both working titles for a movie that was almost never released. So sit tight, enjoy the show, and make sure that you pay attention for next time, because we will be coming out with new material right away. Enjoy the show.
You shut up now.
Mikasa é Sukasa. Let's come Shifu. Let the party begin.
Your ears you keep, and I'll tell you why.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Take this quarter. Go downtown and have a rat gnaw that thing off your face. Good day to you now.
I broke my back.
Look at that fucking bone.
You know, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I'm really gonna miss you guys when the show's over.
All right. Good morning. And thanks for waking me up, Matt. I didn't even know we were going to do one of these today.
You know, I had a hard time sleeping last night. I was up late because I went to go see a movie at 8:30, and it was kind of on a whim. It was only showing for one night. I can't even believe I did it. This is as crazy as I get these days, going to see a movie at 8:30 p.m. on a weeknight, because that means I'm not getting to bed till at least 11:30.
Look at you fucking lunatic.
But the movie, how fitting it is, the T-shirt you're wearing, because the movie I went to go see was playing for one night only.
Oh, is it Super Brawly?
It was Super Brawly, yeah.
How was it?
It was actually really good. I was pretty pleased with it.
I wish you told me you watched that before we did this, because I didn't even know it was out yet. I would have watched it so we could have done like a little co-review.
Well, you know what? I think you need to step up your MMA game, anime game. Sorry, I just switched gears.
And an MMA game.
Forgot what podcast we were doing for a second.
Oh, no worries. We can't always be on the same page.
Yeah. No, it was like super last minute, and I really didn't even have time to. I haven't even had time to like think about it too much or anything, because like I got home last night, went right to bed, and woke up at like 8 this morning. But yeah, like I said, I was pleased with it. It's pretty much everything you'd expect out of a nice Dragon Ball Z movie.
You got like you got all your elements, like Goku gets beat up, Goku gets his head right, Goku powers up, beats the bad guy, some old school Disturbed starts playing.
No old school Disturbed, but it was pretty much everything else. Yeah, I was right on the money.
Yeah. That's all I want to see. I like it. I'm happy with it.
Well, what was fascinating to me was the way that because have you watched Dragon Ball Super, the new series they have going?
No,
I haven't watched it, and
I have a hard time getting into the new, like anything new involving like Dragon Ball Z or something. I'm just like,
that's kind of what I was thinking too, because I feel like I invested so much of my childhood into Dragon Ball Z.
Exactly.
And it was such a process watching that show.
Well, getting into it, and yeah, like invested was exactly the word I was going to use. I fucking it.
Well, the younger generation probably doesn't understand how difficult it was to be a Dragon Ball Z fan when you were our age.
It was not easy.
Yeah, you barely had the internet, and you had like these really random internet like forums and fan-made Dragon Ball Z websites, which is basically where you'd get your information from.
And your friends would always say things like, I just really prefer it in Japanese because you could only find it in Japanese half the time.
Yeah, which I never got either because I hated it in Japanese.
Dude, I only want to watch anime in English. I can't handle it. I lose so much of like the emotion and the character personality and everything when I'm reading what they're saying.
The voice dubs in Japanese I think they're fucking awful. I think they're always awful.
Yeah.
They always give the guys these really feminine voices.
Really high, screechy voices. And they never sound like characters. They all sound the same to me. I don't know if that's bad to say, but they really do. No, I completely agree with you, and it's also extremely racist. It's horrible that you would say that, but I'm here to stand by you. The back and bone share our racism. So,
well, I don't care what anybody says, whether you're a Japanese fan or not. The American voice of Goku and the American voice of Vegeta, those are the voices of those characters.
Yeah, those are their real voices. I don't give a fuck.
Those guys have been doing that job for like 30 years.
Yeah, I waited on the guy the other day named Tien.
Really?
Yeah.
Was he like named after because that's not a real name, right?
No, it's a real name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, he said he was some sort of Asian. I don't know what kind, but he was Asian.
Oh, so that's an actual Asian.
Yeah, and I got his credit card, and I was like, your name's Tien? He's all, yeah. It's like he's all Dragon Ball Z. I know.
How many times do you think that guy's probably heard like say he gives somebody his credit card, and they're like, oh, you need to pay me in yeni. Is that what it was called? Yeni on Dragon Ball Z? The movie that they had?
Yeah,
Yeni or Yeni or something like that.
I don't know if anybody he's bought things from has been that clever. I just told him, I was like, look, man, I'm just saying it's a dope ass name. My name's Keith. I sound like a country singer.
Yeah, that's definitely a country name. But your mom is from Texas. So.
Yeah. Well, my mom didn't name me. My dad
really?
My name. Yeah. I was named after a guy my dad played volleyball with. Not in Texas either.
I don't imagine that.
No.
That seems like more of a where was he playing? I'm assuming this was in California.
Hell, I don't know. Probably California.
Keith goes two ways. Keith can either be a Texas country singer's name, or it can be
a black guy.
Keith, or no, there's three names. All right, that's a good point because there is Keith David. It can be
Keith David and Keith Sweat.
Yeah, black dude, or it can be exactly the type of dude that your dad named you after. Kind of like a surferish dude on the beach playing volleyball.
Some dude playing beach volleyball.
Man. Keith stole my surfboard, man.
Keith borrowed my surfboard like 3 months ago. You never brought it back, bro.
Yeah,
he's a good dude, but he'll never give you your stuff back.
Well, yeah, I would definitely recommend going to see that new Dragon Ball Z movie. One thing I will say is that we got there kind of late, and
8:30. What?
Well, we got there even late for that because I was starving. I had woken up. I woke up at 5 a.m. yesterday, and I had to cover like a shift at work from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I didn't eat a lot. So I was really hungry. So we went to go get sushi before.
Matthew and I have these really high demand jobs that require us to work long 4-hour shifts and like
this was a 6. This was like a 6.5. It wasn't quite 7. I ended up working. My hours were
quite a 7.
I ended up working like 9 hours yesterday.
Yeah.
About But so I was hungry, and we went to go get sushi beforehand, and I was trying to order stuff off the menu. I'm trying to well, for since the new year, I've cleaned up my diet quite a bit. So I'm not eating any rice or anything. So that wasn't easy to do at a sushi place, but I managed. But anyways, we got into the theater a little bit late, and oh my Lord, I've never in my life been in a dorkier audience than this. Because think about it. This is the one night they're showing this, and it sold out.
I imagine it's something along the lines of like a neutered Comic-Con or something like.
Pretty much, there was not a female in sight.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I mean, truly, your age demographic here was easily ages 22, 21 to 35.
Yeah,
male, typically in groups of 2 to 6 people. I would know. I was in a group of 3.
2 to 6. So you fit the demographic.
I fit the demographic.
You actually fit right in.
I fit right in. But Dragon Ball Z. What I forgot about Dragon Ball Z is that I enjoy not so much. I don't think I realized it when I was a little kid, because Dragon Ball Z did such a good job of teasing fight scenes when you were a kid, and they would have all this build up for like 5 episodes, and then you'd finally get it. But what I realized when I was watching this is how much I enjoyed just the other more mundane scenarios with Dragon Ball Z characters than I did the fight scenes, because there was a lot of the first half of the movie, there's not a lot of fighting. And it's just like, it's actually really genuinely funny.
Dragon Ball Z always was like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The nut that you're stroking up towards is the fights, but everything else is good. All the humor in it is really funny. Like fucking Master Roshi being like a fucking pervert. Whenever he takes his shirt off, he's actually super buff.
Well, what's funny is Dragon Ball Z, what they did, and I always wondered, what was it that made me love that show so much as a kid? And obviously not just me, you, and like a lot of other people.
Oh yeah.
But I think it was just how well defined the characters were. And with comic books, you always get kind of a different version of each character every time you have a new writer on. Dragon Ball Z pretty much the entire time was straight from one guy's head. So the continuity is good, and the consistency with the character motivations and the way that they behave is very consistent,
True. That's a really good way of putting it.
Felt like you were getting a different Vegeta or a different
right.
You felt like they're such well-defined characters, Yeah,
unlike a lot of I feel like that is accomplished in anime a lot by the shows being so short.
Right.
Like most of the time a good anime is like 26 episodes long.
Right.
And in that time, it's the same production crew and the same voice actors, the same writers, and everything are going to bust out those 26 episodes. So there isn't really a lot of change to the characters, but Dragon Ball Z was like 8,000 episodes long.
That's what I was going to say. In that regard, they're kind of the exception to the rule.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one thing that was interesting about this movie too, is that I kind of caught up on some of Dragon Ball Super before I watched this movie. So I watched some clips on YouTube just to get myself up to speed. But they've done a really good job of just continuing it and making it feel like it takes place in that same little world,
I didn't even get into Dragon Ball GT, so I
didn't either.
Yeah, I stopped after like, I want to say I got up to like the Boo saga, and that was where I just I remember it was after the Boo saga ended, and I was probably like 13 years old, and I remember trying to watch Dragon Ball GT, and I just hated it. It didn't feel like the same show to me. Right.
The characters felt different. It just felt, I don't know. I just didn't like it. The vibes changed. Speaking of Dragon Ball GT,
out of control. Oh, hey.
I was looking at my bookshelf, and I had this old school Dragon Ball GT action figure up there. And I was like, I'm just going to bring this on the podcast. Maybe I'm just going to do this.
Like the whole time, just pretend that's who's talking. Yeah.
Gogeta is talking.
I love it.
Yeah, it's I think you'd really like it. But then the other thing I forgot about Dragon Ball Z is how draining those fight scenes are. Because this fight scene, the fight scene in this movie, it lasted like it's like you have the first half where it's comedy, the second half where it's all fighting. And it is just balls to the wall, nonstop, just crazy action. And when you're sitting, like, we had shitty seats, we were right in front of the screen. So when you're used to seeing it on a smaller screen, it's just like Dragon Ball Z just bombards your senses.
The movies historically, the fights were a lot more. They were a lot more like animated and drawn out. Like on the TV show, they were more repetitive. Like they would have those they would have those like repeated combos or like and it would be them like evaporating.
You could tell they just had less money on the TV show.
Yeah.
So they had to use the same frames over and over.
Exactly. So for this movie, was it like that? Did they actually animate the fights, or did
they animated the fights? They didn't look like they used a single frame over again, and they used they integrated a lot of different animation styles into this. Like there was some computerized stuff in there, which I know we talked about. We're not really big fans of.
Yeah.
They actually did it really well in this movie.
It can be done well, but it has to be like kept at a minimum.
Well, and what was good about it is they limited it in this movie to just basically like energy blasts, landscapes exploding. They didn't actually. What bothers me a lot is when they use it on the characters, the computer animation, and then
the characters look fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, but I don't mind if they use it on some of the surrounding textures and stuff like that here and there. As like you said, as long as it's not overdone.
Yeah. No, that was definitely one of the big factors that gave the movies a big advantage over the show. Like when you're watching the movies, because it's done in a single sitting, it's not episode to episode to episode. They, like, by nature, they have to take all the lead up and everything out. So it gets to the point.
Yeah.
And two, like the way that the fights are actually displayed are a lot more, like, they're a lot more fluid and real looking. They don't have where their hands are disappearing and their feet are disappearing.
That's what I was going to say. That's one thing I definitely noticed about this movie. There was definitely points where it was chaotic, but yeah, they did do a pretty good job of like putting more care into the fight scenes and including like there was a really cool kind of standout moment in one of the fight scenes where Goku does the full blown like judo toss on Broly. It looks so cool because they like. You could tell they included it on purpose. You know, they slow-moed it, and you see like it's like they rotoscoped a video of an actual judo player judo tossing somebody and had Goku do it, and it just looked really, really cool.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to see this. I've been seeing it pop up around the internet, and I've been meaning to check it out, so I definitely will.
This kind of seems like something they've been doing more and more, where they'll have these like, you know, one night only special, you have to come and see it on this night type of deal.
Sure.
You know, one thing I definitely felt leaving the theater though was how much I enjoyed like going to go, because it had been a while since I sat down and watched a Dragon Ball Z anything all the way through. And I realized how much I missed it. I was like, man, I really love this series and I love these characters, and like I kind of want to start watching it again now. But what I was also thinking was how cool it would be if they did a legitimately good live action version of Dragon Ball Z. Like how gnarly that would be to have one of those crazy fight scenes with actual crazy good special effects and actors, you know?
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. And it would be really awesome if Jessica Biel sat on my face, you know, like we can wish for whatever we fucking want. It would be super cool if they did that, but they're gonna appeal to what they see as the fucking audience for that show, and they're gonna make fucking Dragon Ball Evolution again. They're gonna do the same.
It is kind of weird though that in this day and age, in 2019, when we're literally living in the golden age of the geek, And
Yeah.
you're getting comic book movies on all these obscure characters you never thought you'd see in a million years. And it's amazing that you can't get a good Dragon Ball Z movie.
Well, they haven't seemed to shift that direction media wise, like with anything anime.
No.
Like they kind of are. They're doing a little bit. They made a Bleach movie. They made a
there was an Attack on Titan one, right?
Attack on Titan movie, and they made the what's it called? The Brotherhood.
But those were all done by
they were Japanese,
right?
and they were also very like still in the anime style. Like they didn't really put a serious emphasis on it. It still had that silly cartoonishness to it.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the fuck. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Right.
That one.
Who would you cast as your actors in the Dragon Ball Z movie? I was talking with my friend about this yesterday, and he was like, and we were talking about how shitty Dragon Ball Evolution was, and he was like, they didn't even cast an Asian dude as Goku.
Yeah.
I don't think that really matters. Goku's an alien.
Yeah.
I don't think he would. Wouldn't that be worse if you were like, hey, look at this alien. He happens to look really Asian, or he happens to be Asian.
They didn't cast a cucumber as Piccolo?
I mean, that was one thing we started talking about. I was like, I don't think Dragon Ball Z characters were ever defined as being Japanese. They kind of lived in their own little world. They didn't have any they didn't live in Japan. There wasn't like countries and stuff, right?
Right.
I don't remember.
All I know is that if they ever make this movie, I want Hercule to be played by Ken Shamrock.
That would be a god-awful choice because I don't think Ken Shamrock has any ability to act.
Have you ever seen Hercule on the show? That's all he needs to do.
Who would make a good Hercule? Like a legitimately, if you had to pick a Hollywood actor to play Hercule.
Probably like The Rock or something. Because he's supposed to be good. Yeah, he's supposed to be like actually buff. He's supposed to be one of the actual strongest humans in the world. But
The Rock with a fro and a Fu Manchu, and that would be hilarious.
That would be fucking awesome. He'd be a great Hercule.
If the great Macho Man Randy Savage was still alive,
he'd be perfect. He
would be the ideal choice.
He has the right voice and everything.
Yeah,
had the right voice.
Incredible. Rest in peace, Mach. All right. So what about the big players though? Who are we gonna go with for who are we gonna go with for Vegeta and Goku? I've thought about this a lot, and I go back and forth all the time, and it's really hard for me to get a definitive pick for who.
So Vegeta, we got to have somebody who has like that evil streak to him, but like a good actor because he's.
Well, you know, one actor I can see in either one of these two roles. I could see him doing both. You might disagree with me on this. I think Zac Efron would be perfect for either role.
It's a super weird choice, but I mean,
he looks like a Super Saiyan.
He's built like a Super Saiyan for sure.
And his face, his
body.
It's his face though. His facial structure. He kind of has a weird, like, pretty, like alien face. You know, he almost looks like he just looks. I could see him doing the nice, bright, smiley Goku character, but I could also see him doing kind of the more evil Vegeta character.
Dark, angry Vegeta.
Now, he hasn't, as far as acting chops go, he hasn't necessarily proven himself to be like, you know, a really outstanding actor.
No,
but I don't think you would need to be in that role. You just need to be kind of charismatic and physically.
And I think you're gonna have to act hard though. You're gonna have to act a lot because there's a lot of screaming and there's a lot of aggressive emotion.
He could be a good Vegeta because I could see him playing that snobby, arrogant, like Prince of All Saiyans type.
Sure, you just have to get him a really weird wig.
Who would be a good Goku?
Oh man, that's a tough choice. Who we got that's like really, really good looking and fit, but also kind of half retarded in a
you know who I think would
nice
be
guy kind of way.
Awesome choice if he had darker hair.
Maybe like Channing Tatum or something.
Channing Tatum, I would say he might be
too dumb.
You might be right though. You might be right. Channing Tatum, I could picture Channing Tatum as Goku,
and Zac Efron
Zac
as
Efron as Vegeta. That's a pretty good pair because Channing Tatum's a little
might be
taller.
onto something. Yeah.
I was also gonna say as Goku. I don't know if this choice works. Maybe Chris Pratt. If you darkened his hair, no,
I don't know. I don't think Chris
you're
Pratt's the right kind of. I just don't think he fits. He doesn't have the right look. He doesn't have the right. Yeah, there's something off there. But you never know. Hollywood Magic's done it before. Let me see. Man, that's a tough choice.
I had a real outlandish one. You know who I could see playing Yamcha?
Ooh.
Well, a young Keanu Reeves would have been perfect for Yamcha, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Yamcha's. I mean, I hate to say it, but Yamcha's more or less sort of a throwaway character. Like he's
you don't want to waste
really relevant. Yeah. Keanu, we could just throw Keanu Reeves in as Goku or Vegeta. I think it's fine. He'd be fine for either one of them.
That's what I guess you're right. Yeah. Well, there's been long talk of having Keanu Reeves play Spike Spiegel in the Cowboy Bebop movie.
I think it'd be perfect.
And I do think that is perfect casting. The only problem with that is whenever they decide to do this movie, Keanu's getting up there now. He's well into his 50s. And
they got to get to the point here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they plan on making a franchise out of this, you got to get her done.
I'm sure they could. I'm sure they could make the whole series a movie in like one go, just by like trimming the fat off of it for sure, just kind of like including the important points.
If they did do that, who'd would be perfect in that movie as the God, why am I forgetting the dude's name?
Jet.
Perfect as Jet. Also The Rock. The Rock would be a perfect Hercule, but I think he'd also be a really good Jet.
He'd be a good Jet. I don't know if he'd be a perfect Jet, because I feel like what I get from Jet is like he's drawn as a really like buff, like monstrous dude with a metal arm, but he kind of just strikes me. He doesn't do a lot of like the fighting or the action scene.
That's true.
So he seems like he's more just like an old fucking salty dog who does like the computer work and shit. So I think
how about Dave Bautista?
See Dave Bautista.
That actually Dave Bautista in that
also
role.
Same issue with the fact that he's like a physical Adonis.
No, but Dave Bautista is smaller now though. He's trimmed down. He's visibly smaller than The Rock now.
And on what's it called? Fucking Blade Runner 2049. Yeah. They dolled him up to look like an old.
He kind of looks like him in that movie.
I was going to say the way he looked on that, he looks like he'd be Jet. Like with
I think maybe that's what made me think
on the
of that.
Computer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Dave Bautista would work. He has more of a similar look to Jet than The Rock does, so I think he would work. Let's see, here's an odd one that'll throw you off. Who's going to play Ed?
Ed. Who's Ed?
Ed's the fucking gangly, weird little girl that's the computer hacker.
Is this from in Dragon? Oh, sorry, I was still on Dragon Ball Z. Oh, in Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, the little redheaded girl.
Yeah,
her, I could see
somebody weird.
Yeah, that's man. Because all the actresses I'm thinking of for that role are too old for it now. Like instantly, of course, I think of a bunch of redheads like Emma Stone and stuff like that. But
I don't think Emma Stone's silly enough. Ed's super silly. Like Ed's not just silly. Ed's like straight up fucking weird as fuck.
I think for Ed, you'd probably have to go with like some quirky unknown. I don't know. I feel
like that's Ed is a point that Hollywood would take liberties with and completely just X that character out, because you kind of could do without Ed on the show. Ed's not really extremely relevant.
Here's the real question. Who is going to play Faye? Who are they going to get to fill those to-go biddies? And the even better question is, are they going to change her outfit? Which would be an absolute shame if they did.
If they found someone fucking hot enough to fit that character mystique. And
who can play that role? That's you would have to get. And
so you got like Scarlett Johansson, you got Jessica Biel, you got
none.
anyone with big old boobs.
They don't have. They're not equipped enough. You need like a what's the girl from she was in Mad Men and Drive, Christina Hendricks. You need a girl that's got a chest that goes like halfway down her waist. She's the redheaded one. She was in Drive. Did you see Drive?
Oh yeah.
She's the redheaded girl in that one. She has, look up pictures of her right now.
I know. I know who you're talking about. But yeah,
her chest is They need to have somebody, because that's I don't care what you say. That's a part of that character. It would be like nobody would have any issues with.
She does have giant droopy breasts. They're all like.
Well, look, nobody would have any issues with if you had a character who had massive biceps, right? And then they cast somebody to play him who didn't have massive biceps. People would be like, "Hey, that's bullshit. This guy's supposed to be jacked. Why is there? What's the problem with that? You know, they need to get a girl with giant boobs to play a character who has giant boobs in the show."
I agree. It's physiology. You know, it's not. We're not trying to offend anybody. This is just what we're looking at. This is how this character was drawn.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
granted, that's how like 99% of anime females are drawn. But hey,
sure. You know
what?
Some boobs are more iconic than others.
I'm gonna look up big boobed actresses and see if I can find somebody who fits the bill.
Yeah, I know that's not the first time you've looked up big boobed actresses.
It's 2019. I'm not just going around looking up big boobed actresses.
Fuck, I don't know what you're into. We've never had this conversation before.
Yeah, that's a really. You know who would be good? The girl from. She was in True Detective season 1. Her name's Alexandria Daddario. She played Woody Harrelson's. She was Woody Harrelson's like mistress that he was having an affair with.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, actually, she almost kind of looks like Faye.
She does, and there was the one episode where she takes her top off and she has giant boobs.
Yeah, she's the girl from Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and yeah, she has enormous boobs. And she was also on Baywatch with Zac Efron and The Rock. Now that we're making connections, yeah, she kind of has that like I might be on heroin face. And like,
I think that's kind of the face Faye.
That's what I'm saying. She looks like Faye. Like she
looks like that. That kind of. She has a very scandalous look to her.
Yeah, she definitely has a. I'm strung out from drinking and gambling for the last, 45 hours, and I might be on heroin. I might be on meth. You decide.
It's up to you. Well, yeah, it sounds like we've got a pretty solid cast going for the Cowboy Bebop. We're still pretty Dragon Ball Z.
Well, thank God we're responsible for production.
Dragon Ball Z much harder to cast.
Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is much more like the world of Dragon Ball Z is so much more based in animation. It's so much more just extreme and wild and out there. Like Cowboy Bebop has like a really strong realism to it, even though it's futuristic and everything. It's got a lot of realism to it. It's more grounded to what's possible and what makes sense.
That's true.
So it's a little easier to see that in the real world and make a connection. Aside from Spike's green afro, which is iconic and I love it and I want to see it in the movie, but it also might be distracting.
I always had trouble figuring out I could never figure out whether or not Spike had a green afro or a black afro that had a green tint to it that would come off.
It definitely has this like, it definitely has this like almost sort of a metallic green shine to it.
Yeah.
But I'm calling it. It's green. It's a green afro.
Green afro. If there's anybody out there who has any extensive Cowboy Bebop knowledge, please feel free to weigh in and let us know. Is Spike Spiegel's afro green or black with a green tint? I'm going black with a green tint.
I'm going green. So we'll see. May the better man know Spike's hair better. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's gonna give us more potential to actually see that in real terms, whereas Dragon Ball Z is just fucking out there. Dragon Ball Z is too crazy. It's people flying around, moving at light speed, shooting lasers out of their dicks and stuff at each other. It's out of control.
It would be at the very least, it would be a very, very pricey movie to make, I would assume.
Yeah, and you run the risk of creating another Dragon Ball Evolution. Which is just something that's an unforgivable sin.
It truly is.
People who made that movie should have been strung up outside of Hollywood as a warning.
They should never
with their innards just pouring out.
It was just awful. I mean, there's been some really bad adaptations of comic books, video games, all things science fiction and fantasy, and
but rarely with the kind of budget that movie had.
Did it have a good budget?
It had a pretty good budget for what it produced. Like, it had famous people on it. It had Chow Yun-fat.
And then it had Justin Chatwan playing Goku.
Yeah. Well, he was kind of famous. He was a little famous.
He was somewhat famous at the time. Didn't it have the girl? It had the girl from Shameless.
Oh, it had Jamie Chung on it.
Oh yeah, it did.
The world's hottest Asian. She was.
It had her.
And that's no small boast. Asian is not a shortening factor for.
Well, I remember seeing I'm going to be totally honest here. I never actually watched Dragon Ball Evolution. I just watched clips of it on YouTube. But I remember just
you've just got to you've got to put yourself through that. I'm gonna watch Tiptoes for you.
Well, we both need to watch Tiptoes,
dude. I just watched the trailer today and it blew my mind.
Isn't it crazy?
I think I want to be Gary Oldman from Tiptoes for Halloween.
What did they do?
These giant football shoulder pads and get a mullet wig.
That's the funny thing about it is I don't know if Punker Mike was the one who told me this or if I read this online, but I actually heard. I think that Gary Oldman's performance in the movie was actually praised.
Yeah, it said in the performance of a lifetime.
They thought what's crazy about that movie is somebody thought that was going to be Oscar bait.
It was like a feel good movie. It had the whole Oscar movie.
Even the trailer seemed conflicted though, didn't it? Because the first half of the trailer seems like it's almost like a dark comedy, but then it totally shift gears into a feel good Oscar movie.
No point felt like a dark comedy.
Really?
Except maybe when Peter Dinklage was on the screen talking in his really bad French accent. He's like, "We are so cute and cuddly."
Man, can you imagine if that came out today? That movie, and for those of you guys who don't know, Tiptoes is I think we touched on it before, but it's this really ridiculous movie.
It was 2003, so it was a different era that it was being made in. It was also, as you mentioned before, not released.
A DVD it was released on it.
Yeah, but everything gets released on DVD.
Keep in mind, guys, this is a movie that has Matthew McConaughey, Kate Beckinsale, Gary Oldman. It's got
Peter Dinklage,
star-studded cast. This was meant to be released, widely.
Yeah, this was going to be like an Oscar film or Academy Award film. Like, it was going to be one of those. And it was just such an insane. It was the story of the tall kid from the Little People Big World show. Or what was that? Is that what it was called? Little People Big World? Or
that reality show.
Yeah, there was the one kid who was like
was not a dwarf.
Normal. It was non-dwarf, and his entire family was dwarfs. Well, that was Matthew McConaughey in this movie.
Did that kid just always, anytime they were going to do family games, did he just always want to play basketball?
He was just smoking everybody at whatever sport they were playing.
Come on, guys, don't be scared. Let's throw some money down on it. He was probably rich.
He's like playing poker with him, and he can see everybody's cards.
That's so not fair. Imagine I kind of feel bad for him. Imagine the amount of resentment everybody in that family has towards that.
Oh man, it's probably horrible. He's like the different one. That's what's fucked up about it. Yeah, poor tall kid. He's like, I'm a freak.
A freak in my own home. I have to squat down just to grab the Triscuits from the
Do you know what it's like having a dwarf accessible bathroom and not be a dwarf? You know how low I have to squat to take a shit every day?
Well, you know
I
that
never
movie
fit in the goddamn shower.
Tiptoes looks like it almost falls into the borderline kind of exploitation category in some ways, maybe.
Because there's so many actual dwarves in the movie.
No, not in that regard. Just in the sense that it.
Offensive now too, right? You're not supposed to say that either.
No, I think, or is it little person? I
yes,
always thought dwarf was the correct term. Like dwarfism is the actual.
Dwarfism is the correct term. Midget was.
Midget is for sure.
Yeah,
not
midget.
good.
Well, midget meant something else. Midget was a different kind of condition that doesn't really like exist anymore. Midget was like a physiological condition that there were like. I don't know the finer details of it, but I remember like growing up watching this on like Discovery Health where they would talk about the actual condition and why like midget's offensive is because it actually refers to something else. Like if you watch like Wizard of Oz, those were midgets. Because they were a different type.
They actually have smaller heads.
Yeah.
Like it's a different build.
Yeah, and that's like something that it was like a correctable condition that with later developments in medical science basically eradicated that gene or whatever the fuck you call it, that condition.
Well, yeah, no, so I wouldn't say it's exploitative in that sense. If anything, in that sense, it's it's kind of a good thing, I guess, that they. Because that's probably it's obviously kind of a niche role, so they gave a lot of these people work, which is great.
Sure,
but it might be kind of insulting that you had to cast Gary Oldman as like kind of in the main role as the head little person. They couldn't throw Peter Dinklage that bone.
You know, no pun intended, but he is the biggest actor in that movie. But but he I loved all the long shot scenes that they had to show him with no other people for reference to make him look like a dwarf.
Right.
That killed me because he didn't look like a dwarf at all.
They used a lot of the same techniques as The Hobbit, I think.
Yeah. Well, The Hobbit did it way better though. The Hobbit,
I don't think so.
No,
no. I'm joking,
dude. Wait a minute.
No way, man. Tiptoes did it better.
Tiptoes has got it down. No, The Hobbit was obviously really, really, really well produced. This was like, I don't think whoever made this movie had a background in visual effects. Let me put it that way.
Yes, definitely not. I think they may have been the distant cousin of the visual effects guy for the Lord of the Rings, and he responded to one of his cousin's emails giving him a couple tips on how to do this correctly.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Either that or the visual effects guy on Tiptoes watched the Lord of the Rings DVD commentary.
Watched it with commentary. Yeah,
that was the extent of his education in that realm.
It was absolutely hysterical. I really recommend to all of you listening that you watch the trailer, and I don't think any of you will watch the movie after watching the trailer. I think you're going to get everything you need out of it by watching the trailer.
Even just in that trailer, how many little person jokes do they shoehorn into it?
It's just like all they did.
That was like the whole trailer.
Yeah, it was
like a bunch of really corny jokes.
And it really tripped me out that was something that they did. That would be like, we make a movie, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I fall in love with this girl, and I'm like, I want to take you back to meet my family, but there's something I got to tell you first. And then the camera pans over, and my whole family is black.
Right. Well, and then that's what I was going to say. What this reminds me of is, I may have talked about it on the podcast before. I'm not sure, but there was a movie that came out in the 80s called Soul Man. Have I talked about this? Soul Man starred C. Thomas Howell, and he played a white college student who couldn't afford to get into college, so he paints himself blackface in order to apply for a black scholarship fund.
I vaguely remember Soul Man. I know I've seen this, but
Soul Man, when you go back, even if you just go back and watch the trailer to Soul Man, which you have to, you absolutely have to. It is like one of the most offensive trailers you will ever see in your life. You are gonna be in shock that Soul Man ever got made, even in the 80s.
yeah.
And I always remember they had God, what's his guy's name? The guy who played Darth Vader, James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones, yeah.
They have him. He plays
He also didn't play Darth Vader. He just voiced Darth Vader.
Darth Vader. He I'm sorry, that was Andre the Giant who played Darth Vader. They have him playing the principal of the school that C. Thomas Howell was going to, and they even go so far as not only does C. Thomas Howell do blackface, and he does not even look black. He looks like some kind of weird, like kind of Puerto Rican-ish type dude. I don't even know what you would call it. But he gives himself a fro. He perms his hair.
What is his end game here? Because when he's filing for this African American scholarship, he has to create a fake identity to go to school with, because it's not like they're going to look at his medical records and see that he was born Caucasian. And
I think you're thinking way too deep into this. I don't think they thought about this is a movie about a guy doing blackface. This is like the Juwanna Man of college movies. They didn't think about any of this.
They're literally just looking for an excuse to put someone in blackface.
I remember
like Laurence Olivier in Othello.
I remember that with this movie. I remember he did do that though, didn't he? Did he not? Or no, he did. Didn't Laurence Olivier do that in one of his movies?
Othello.
Was that it?
It was Othello, yeah. And the only reason why I know that
or no.
I don't think he did that in Lawrence of Arabia. He probably did. I don't know, but the only reason why I know that for sure is because of the discussion on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, when has blackface been classy? Laurence Olivier and Othello.
Oh wait, I have to correct myself here. He decides to apply for the scholarship in Soul Man, but he actually doesn't paint himself. He decides to cheat by using tanning pills in a larger dose than prescribed.
However, to make the movie, they painted him. So there.
Yes, exactly. One thing I remember too is even when you watch the trailer for Soul Man, they drop the N-bomb like multiple times. It is this movie I think was
sounds like a real classy piece of work.
It was trying to be as offensive as possible.
Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna have to check it out. I vaguely remember it. It sounds very familiar. Sounds like something I might have watched on like TNT or something at 1 a.m. when I was a kid. But
it has a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh God, that's the best.
It's something else, and if you guys haven't saw the trailer for it, you may want to check it out.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm sold. Tiptoes and Soul Man.
What's crazy is the guy who directed Soul Man. I'm looking at his filmography, and I'm really surprised at not surprised because a lot of these other movies that he directed are horrible, but he also directed Halloween H2O. That's one of the standouts. Lake Placid, the one with the alligator.
Also one of my favorites.
Day of the Dead in 2008.
Which Day of the Dead is that?
I don't even remember. Day of the Dead. That's not the original, obviously. No. This was like a remake, or
because then there was the one where they were in the mall.
No, you're thinking of that's Dawn.
That's Dawn of the Dead, and then
that was George Romero, and then you had Day of the Dead was also directed by George Romero. That took place a few years later, and that's when they're like underground.
Right.
He also did Big Bully. You remember Big Bully? It had
with Tom Arnold and what's his name? The little guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Rick Moranis.
Yeah, he disappeared, dude. Rick Moranis. You know what I heard about
actually
him?
Disappeared?
No, he's alive. But what I heard about him is he retired. he retired at the peak of his career, and I think I read an article. I can look this up, but I think I read an article where they said that what happened actually was, I think he had a few kids with his wife died in 1991, and they had 2 children, and he actually did the noble thing,
them.
and after he shrunk them, after his wife died, he just decided to basically retire from acting and spend time with his kids, and he retired. He hasn't been in anything in like forever.
Yeah.
He hasn't been in anything. He did voiceover work after that, like 1 or 2 times, but that was it. The last full-blown movie he was in was Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves in 1997.
Wow. Really? That was the last movie he was in?
Last movie he was in. Yep.
That's super weird.
And then other than that, it's been all voice work since then on either television or on a couple of movies.
Yeah, so Rick Moranis was very famous. He did a lot of very high-end movies, very mainstream.
He was like the king of the children's live action family movie, really.
Yeah. And he was the primary like nerdy guy for Hollywood.
Yeah.
It's weird that he would just disappear, but it's also not like he was it's not like he was this leading role character guy who like was irreplaceable. He basically was just really perfect for that nerd guy role, which
I disagree. I think he would have won an Oscar if he would have stuck around. I think he would have been the next Daniel Day-Lewis. He would have surpassed Daniel Day-Lewis. And we might have seen him in such great classics as There Will Be Blood or
Gangs of New York.
Or
he could have been Bill the Butcher.
He was, you know what's funny about that? You remember that movie he was in, the football one? The fuck was that called? God, am I gonna have to look? My memory is getting so shitty.
Yeah, you're getting old, Matt.
Little Giants. He was in Little Giants. Remember that one with Ed O'Neill from Married with Children? That movie was filmed. A lot of it was filmed in Rio Grande, right in my neighborhood.
How nice.
In the village. That little creek where the go-kart scene takes place, that was in the little creek behind my house.
We should go ride go-karts out there sometime.
We should. We would probably drive through homeless people's urination because I think there's a couple squatters out there. But
I don't think I could enjoy driving through a creek in a go-kart without running over some homeless urine. I live in LA. You know how much homeless urine I step through every day?
Yeah.
It's basically I paint my walls with homeless urine. This place,
since you're in LA, for the first time when I was in LA probably maybe on our last trip to LA, or it might have been the trip before that. We drove through Skid Row.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
It's
beautiful. Fuck. For those of you that have not been to Skid Row, it's like fucking Max.
Yeah, it's like imagine like a painting of a city.
Right.
Now imagine that painting was painted by Picasso. That's Skid Row.
That's a perfect description. You nailed it. Skid Row is like, and the crazy thing about Skid Row is I always envisioned in my head of Skid Row as one very small alleyway with maybe 10 to 15 heroin addicts hanging out.
No.
I didn't realize Skid Row was an entire city block of tents, and like it's like its own little mini.
No, it's several city blocks that tendril out into individual streets that it's almost like this silently regarded thing that in these certain areas police are not going to fuck with the homeless. They're not going to like arrest them or take them away or anything, or even protect law-abiding citizens from them. Well, there's just these communities that reach out. It's like if you're on the right street, there's just going to be tents and fucking destitute people passed out everywhere. It's insane.
It's its own little world out there. Yeah. And when you pass by it, it's like shocking. You're just like, holy shit. It's weird that you can drive by there and then you go about maybe 5 minutes, keep going, and then you have like downtown LA, And
like the nice part of
there's
downtown.
really nice parts, yeah. And it's like it's not
You
that
could be
far
on like
away though.
7th and Fig right away, and like there's big
Yeah.
fucking lights and beautiful buildings. And
What's crazy to think is that if shit was ever to hit the fan, like that's not that far away. Like that's basically the same thing.
yeah, LA is a crazy place. Skid Row is a crazy place. The thing is, like I don't like calling it Skid Row because Skid Row is a very misleading title. That makes it sound like it's one spot. It's not one spot. It's all over LA. It's these different places that these patches of homeless communities.
It's like Skid City.
Right.
Skid Town, USA. Come to Skid Town.
Come spend a vacation in Skid Town.
The only place, one of the other places I went to that that was comparable, but not scale wise, but just I guess really just grossness wise. The Tenderloin in San Francisco.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this one time.
God awful. A couple spots I went to in Oakland, which were not quite as bad, but they were still pretty heinous. But yeah, those are weird spots, man, because they're just like, I couldn't imagine that being your reality, you know, like imagine waking up in Skid Row and that's where you live. That's your spot every day.
I don't think you end up there until you are mentally so fucking out there that's the only thing that makes sense to you.
Yeah, well, there's
people in our state of mind, our state of consciousness that are living out there.
No, definitely not.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there who have some mental issues, and there's also definitely a lot of people out there who are just full-blown heroin addicts.
Yeah, there's definitely no one there's no one out there in Skid Row or the Tenderloin or any of those spots that is waking up going, God damn, if I just filed my taxes right this year.
Right. Yeah, you don't just that doesn't just happen. Yeah. But it's like, how do you go from, all right, you know, you could be, maybe you're a homeless dude in Venice Beach. Okay, that's not great, but it's better than Skid Row. How do you go from like there? How do you know what I mean? There's like a trickle down effect. It's like, how do you end up going from there to there?
It's like there's tiers of homelessness. It's like,
right.
It's how filthy and destitute are you? Because if you're pretty clean relatively, you can walk around Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena with a dog and have it take pictures with girls.
Right.
And you'll be all right. No one's going to hassle you. You can play a guitar outside of the fucking Starbucks and people will drop change in your fucking guitar case. Or you can be shooting up fucking heroin on the street and we're gonna stuff you into downtown LA right in the middle of that fucking pack of wolves out there.
You know, maybe it's one of those things where it just comes down to human nature, and it's like I guess the only positive thing you could say about Skid Row really is that it's a massive community. It's a community of very damaged people, I would imagine, but it's a community nonetheless, so maybe that's what they're looking for.
Well, let's consider the fact that these people do exist.
Yeah,
there is some sort of requirement for that world, because that world wouldn't be there. It's entirely made up by personality types. There was no city planner who went, let's build this pile of shit here. Throw some let's take these streets over here. Take 4th Street and let's just fill it with tents and human feces and needles. No. People got together and just sort of created this spot. So there is clearly some requirement by human nature for this to exist.
Do you think we will ever see a day where Skid Row is gentrified?
Possibly. Totally. That's
could happen.
Over the last semester, I was studying homelessness in journalism. That was my term project was homelessness. So it was pretty interesting to look over some of the facts and statistics and news, and there's some really interesting stuff going on in the world of homeless relations and what's going on with them. Like, You know that California has, or Southern California has, $1.2 billion a year that they put into a fund to house homeless, and they never get to use any of that money because they can never get any of the projects approved.
Wow. So where does all the money go?
Who fucking knows? It just goes up into space or into pockets. Like, the reason why they can never get any of the projects approved is because there's resistance by local ordinances. There's businesses and communities that go, we don't want you to build a homeless shelter here. We don't want one here. We don't want one here. So they can't get it approved anywhere. I was reading about one developer who said that he could build a project that could house like 233 homeless people, something like that. And he could do that in, I think he said, this was some months ago that I read this, so my facts are a little blurry, but he wanted like $120 million or something like that to build this project in like 6 months, something like pretty quick, pretty ambitious. And he was going to be able to house a rotating selection of like several hundred homeless people, and he just couldn't get it approved. Nobody would allow it to happen because they didn't want it in their community. It's like, well, do you want Skid Row in your community? Because there it fucking is.
To play devil's advocate, I could only see that. Here's how I don't know. There's one part of me that thinks that sounds nice, but then there's another part of me that pictures it just being a total disaster.
It certainly is. I definitely see that.
Because can you imagine? I mean, you look at the people that are on Skid Row, and then you imagine, creating this big infrastructure to house them. I mean, imagine what that would turn into.
It would be a shit show.
To play devil's advocate on the other side, if you were a business owner and there was a proposal to build a homeless shelter right next to your business, would you want that?
No, and certainly not. I'm not saying that I'm not passing fault on anybody.
Right. Yeah.
But you know what?
It's just how it is.
Yeah, there is no. I mean, California is fucking huge, man.
Yeah,
there's so much space out there.
They should, if they were to do it, like, that's the thing. That would be the hard thing to figure out. Is like, where do you put it? How
take
do you
a big fucking field out here, or even up in the fucking mountains? There's a lot of fucking space out here. And put a big fat building up and ship all the homeless people up there. Who gives a shit? They got nowhere else to go. Give them a fucking house out in the fucking mountains.
Remember that episode of? Did you ever see that episode of South Park where all those homeless people go to South Park and then they just ship them to Santa Monica?
I don't think I saw that one.
It's like, and then they play that song California, and it's like, California is good to the homeless. California.
Yeah. Well, all the homeless people fucking live here because it never gets that cold. Like
it's ideal. Yeah, that's ideal home. It does get hot as fuck though sometimes in LA. And those like last summer, dude, like when we did our podcast in July.
Oh God, that was fucking miserable.
113 degrees. We were dying. Can you imagine being homeless in that fucking weather?
Well, it was hotter in the room than it was outside, but yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Still though, like, okay, let's subtract 5. That was so fucking hot that you subtract 5 degrees, you don't even feel it.
But like in retrospect, it was super funny that we were doing a podcast in that fucking temperature. We're just we're like icing our balls and shit.
That would have been. I wish we would have had a deal up for that.
We're just
that would have been funny to get on film. That was pure torture.
That was the funniest. Like one of the funniest things we've done on the podcast for sure is just the fact we were torturing ourselves in that fucking outrageous heat.
That was a test of mental fortitude to be able to make it through that fucking podcast.
Yeah, once it was over, we turned the air conditioner on, and the air conditioner, it had to like catch up to how hot it was in there. It was like bogging down in the heat. It was so fucking funny.
That would have been funny to post on like YouTube or something, because imagine the shit storm. Like if we had a lot of views on that video, and just the amount of people that would comment and shit talk and be like, look at these two pussies from Santa Maria growing up in like perfect weather, crying about fucking, you know what I mean?
Dude, fuck that shit.
But
It
that
was
was hot.
easily 120 degrees in that room.
Yeah,
Like
anybody would have been
fucking
hot.
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, people talk about like Afghanistan and shit. It's like, oh, the harsh fucking conditions is 125 degrees outside. Is all. That's what we were fucking dealing with. All right?
Yeah.
we were in Middle East temperatures.
Middle East and Pasadena.
Sort of the Middle East, California. Yeah. No, it was fucking gruesome, hilarious, but gruesome. Oh man,
those summers down there are no joke.
Yeah.
And now it's raining. Is it raining down there?
Yeah, it is. It's been raining a lot.
Yeah.
And I still don't have a window yet on my car. Did I tell you about that?
No, we never told. Your sister told me about it, but I never talked to you about it.
Yeah, somebody just smashed my window while I was at work and took my backpack.
What a nice person that was.
Oh, God, how
I hope that after they stole your backpack, they were trying to evade capture and were running across the freeway and got hit by a car.
That'd be nice. It's a really pleasant thought to think that whoever
it'd be like Billy Madison and you see the broken window and you're like, I got a feeling their whole family's going down. And then he slips on a banana peel and falls off a mountain. Yeah, that's fucking horrible. Well, you didn't have anything like, I mean, it sucks obviously that your window got broke, but you didn't have any, luckily you didn't have like your laptop or anything like that in your backpack, right?
No, I didn't have anything of specific monetary value, but I did get I got fined for a rented textbook that was in my backpack.
Mm-hmm. I've got one of those right now. I need to return it for my biology class.
Yeah, so I had that, and also they smashed my fucking window.
Which is obviously not cheap to replace.
Right. And
do you have you have insurance or?
I do have insurance, but I also have a DUI on my record, so I'm not trying to open up any claims that's going to make my insurance company look into anything and then raise my rates. I'm not trying to pay $500 a month for car insurance.
Yeah, that's true. Fuck, that sucks. That's so shitty because it's like you pay for insurance and you can't even get something fixed because you don't want them to raise your rate, but it's not even your fault.
Right. Yeah. I still say that fucking DUI wasn't even my fault. I blew a .08. You kidding me?
You do have really unfortunate luck when it comes to that. Because I remember when it was my 21st birthday.
Yeah.
You got a DUI for smoking weed.
No, that's not what happened.
What was it?
The police officer followed us out of the bar. I was the designated driver.
I remember that.
I drove us home. The officer pulled us over, pulled me out of the car, drunk tested me, and just went, well, you failed all those tests. And I was like, really? Because I didn't drink anything. He's all, well, you're definitely on drugs. I'm like, all right, well, breathalyze me, drug test me. He's all, I got to take you to the station. Arrests me, tells me that I have a court date. So he breathalyzes me, and I blow like a .002 or something like that. I'm like way, way under the limit because I had a cocktail like 12 hours earlier.
Yeah, because I remember you specifically were not drinking that night. Yeah. You were like the designated driver.
Yeah. And then drug test me, everything comes in clean. Drug test me again, everything comes in clean. And then I hear him talking to his partner outside. He's like, and I don't. They thought that I couldn't hear him, but they were like, "What are we gonna do? How are we gonna handle this?" I don't know. It's your call, man. Well, what should we do? And they come in. They're like, "We're gonna have to lock you up overnight just to make sure that you're safe." I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?
Is that even legal to lock you up when you blow under the?"
It is legal for them to lock you up for no reason at all for up to 72 hours.
Whoa,
it's because it's called legal detention. They can legally detain you for 72 hours with no reason, no call at all. They can just grab you off the street and be like, suspicious, and put you in jail for 72 hours with no explanation. That's not
legal detention. That's slavery, man.
Yeah, straight up, dog. Slavery. We're all under the thumb of the man, bro. Oh, yeah. So that's like, I learned a lot about trusting cops after that night. That's, yeah. So that was my first experience. And they told me there was going to be a court date and everything. Then I received a notice in the mail. They were like, "Oh, we have nothing to prosecute you on." So
So there will be. So they basically just completely wasted your time.
Yeah, and then made me walk to Monstar's house from the police station because they
didn't even give you a ride back to your car.
No, they just let you out. They're like, "Good luck."
Fucking Jesus Christ!
No, you should hear about the guy. You should hear about my cellie, my bunkie, the guy that locked me up.
Cellmate.
So this old fucking dude, he was like, "So I was just walking outside of Louis B's. I wasn't even driving, and I was just having a good night. So I did a little dance move. Cop pulls me over, and I'm like, what? I'm not driving or anything. He's like, this is drunk in public, and arrests me."
Oh my Lord. I've always felt like, I was thinking about this the other day, the drunken public thing. And it's like, I think, shouldn't it be, I don't know how cops should handle this, but here's what I'm thinking. All right. And this is obviously a very idealistic scenario. If I'm a cop and I see a dude walking home and he's maybe a little tipsy, first of all, he's doing a good deed. He's not getting behind the wheel. Shouldn't you at the very least just be like, you know what? I'll do this guy's help. Let me give him a ride home.
Yeah, right. Well, that's a human thing. You're talking about police officers.
Yeah.
These are people who selected a job that requires them to subjugate people, and
it does seem like a rather odd job selection. I don't know who would want to do that. It doesn't seem like it would be. It seems very joyless to me.
Well, this guy, I was serving this table the other day, and this guy was like a recruiter for the I think it was the Arcadia Police Department, and he was like, he was asking me about myself, and I was like, telling him about how I do like martial arts and physical training. He was like, so why don't you apply for the police department? Starts you off at $70,000 a year, blah, blah. And I was like, still trying to get my tips. So I had to be nice and everything. What I was thinking was, I'd rather die than be a police officer. It's like, there's no amount of money you could pay me that would make me want to do that.
Yeah. And it's not, I used to, when I was the personal training manager at InShape, there was a guy that we hired. He was hilarious. His name was Mark. And really, actually, a really cool guy. He was from the East Coast. He was from Boston, and he's got a thick Boston accent. Boston. He basically, and he was retired. He was a retired police officer, and he basically just was doing the training job to keep busy. He only worked like a few hours a week. But he was a funny dude, and he would tell these hilarious stories from when he was on the police force, and he was in he was on the gang task force. So he was kicking in like
kicking in doors. I was going to say, let's make this clear real quick. I don't think all cops are bad people. I just think if
you take anything away from this podcast, Keith doesn't think that all cops are bad people. There's cops.
There's plenty. No. There are plenty of good dudes that are cops. There's plenty of people who are like, just making their money. I do think it's a fucking really, it's a very contentious topic.
I still think it's an odd job choice, but look, fucking people probably look at me and they're like, why are you a Pilates instructor? Why do you want to be surrounded by
by girls in yoga pants sticking
that's
all day while you're bending them over and
that might be an odd job choice to some people.
Sure, to some people.
So anyways, this guy Mark we hired, he was on the gang task force, and they would do all these crazy they'd be kicking down doors, and he would tell me all these funny stories from when he was on the force. And he was actually a former like semi-pro hockey player, I think, too.
Sweet.
And he just had this hilarious accent. So we were having a CPR certification one time. And, it's where you have to do the whole thing on the fake dummy. And
I know what a CPR certification is, Matt. I'm not an idiot.
I've saved lives, so I know firsthand what it takes. All right. So he was like,
look, I've had both my hands on a chest before. My lips were pressed firmly to another mouth.
I know what that feels like.
I know what that means.
He all of a sudden he goes, we were talking about reviving somebody, and he goes, yeah, I'm 0 for 7. I'm 0 for 7.
0 for 7.
And I was like, what? say what? And then he was like, 0 for 7. He goes, I found 7 dead bodies, and they've all died on me. I've tried to revive 7 dead bodies.
Jesus.
Yeah. And he was like, I did revive one lady. I revived one lady, but she died later in the hospital.
What
he was very, it was just fun. Well, you could tell he was one of those dudes. He was in his 50s, or he had just turned 50. You know, he'd been around the block. This guy grew up in Boston, and I just don't think it was a big deal to him, you know? He'd been through it so many times that it was just like...
Yeah, growing up in Boston, you know...
But so here's
dead bodies. Apparently, 7 of them.
Here's what I was getting to. He was there. So there was this one time where we were inside training, and a Hispanic woman she was pulling out, and she ran into his brand new car. She broke his headlight, and then she tried to kind of like drive away, and he caught her. Mm-hmm. She was going to try and leave, so he stopped her, and I could see him out there talking to her. And he comes back in. He's all pissed off. He walks her back into the gym. They call the police to file a report and everything. And he comes back and he talks to me. He goes, that fucking lady, man, I knew she was lying from the beginning. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, I had to deal with this shit all the time in Boston. He goes, he said that basically what happened is she hit his car. And then when he went out there to talk to her about it, she was pretending that she didn't speak English, but she did. And he said he could tell right away just from her body language that she knew how to speak English. So he brought her back into the gym to the front desk girl who's bilingual. And he told the front desk girl, he goes, Gladys, he goes, does she speak English? And Gladys goes, yeah, I talk to her all the time. So the lady was lying.
Yeah.
He said that was literally like a daily basis for him. He said everybody was lying to him. And I've heard them talk about that on Joe Rogan's podcast where they say he said he got lied to every day, so he just assumes everybody's lying to him all the time.
Right, and that's the thing I was going to say is with police officers, they're dealing with the fucking scum of the earth all the time. Right. But that doesn't mean that it's okay to treat everyone like the scum of the earth. That's a really important distinction.
I agree.
That's what you're getting paid for. That's why you're able to get $70,000 a year without a college degree.
If anything, shouldn't it be a breath of fresh air when you come across somebody who isn't kind of a scumbag, but it's probably hard to distinguish, I guess, at times.
Yeah. Well, think about that. It's hard to distinguish, and also you have to be on your guard so that you don't get taken advantage of. But at the same time, that distinction is your fucking job.
Yeah. Sorry
about it. Sorry that your job sucks. That's what you're getting paid for. That's why you make more money than I do. You have to treat people fairly because you're put in a position where you can really fuck people's lives up.
Would you want to be a cop if you were like a detective, like on True Detective or something?
It does seem cool. Like
it does seem really cool.
That does seem like a more enjoyable thing.
It does seem really cool, but they always paint those characters as super miserable. They're always like semi-alcoholics, functioning alcoholics. They smoke a lot. They always just come off really, really broken.
Really, just destroyed people, I think ruined families and everything.
Well, and I think that is the case a lot of times in real life. I how many times have you been listening to a podcast where they have a detective and they're talking about finding a certain dead body or certain crimes that just change their perspective forever that still like haunts them, you know?
Yeah, you always hear the found a baby in a microwave one where it's like, that's where my life was ruined.
Like, what's crazy is somebody did find but that's a true story. Somebody did find a baby in a microwave, and you would never be the same after that.
Right, exactly.
So,
speaking of True Detective, I saw that you re-reviewed that. It's easily one of the greatest pieces of media that I've ever watched. What an absolutely great show that first season was.
Yeah, the reason I went back and reviewed that, I'd been meaning to do it for a while because that's one of my like top 10 favorite things ever.
Yeah, it's on the list for sure.
Yeah, but I started watching season 3 of True Detective, and there's 2 episodes in now, and it's actually really good.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't know if
season 2 is the one with
season 2 was the one with Colin Farrell and Vince Vaughn, and it was
there was some moments. There was some really funny moments. Like Colin Farrell was great.
Yeah. His character is just awful.
The kid's like, he's like, what happened to the Jordans, the shoes you like? He's all, so some people got him. He's all, what, are they shitting them?
What did they shit? Like the very first episode. It's funny because the first episode, I thought it was going to be a really good show because it has that scene where he goes there and he beats up the kid's dad.
Yeah.
And he's like,
You fuck with my son again, I'll come back here and I'll butt fuck your father while your mother watches. and then and then and then and then he looks down at the kid and he goes, 12 years old, I don't give a fuck. Fuck you. in his face. And like, he was just a horrible character, but you kind of liked him by the end of the show.
No, he was cool. Like, he was a horrible character, but he was likable. He was funny, and he definitely grows on you. His sense of his like ambiguous but present sense of morality that he has.
Yeah. And there was some things I liked about that show. I like how they went into. I remember they would have that Velcuro would have that Colin Farrell's character. He would have that dream where it would be Elvis singing. And like there was some
I didn't finish the season, so I don't remember I don't know everything that happened, but
they drew a lot of inspiration from like Twin Peaks in that second season. There was a lot of kind of surrealistic visions in it. But it ended up being, it wasn't a great show because it ended up being very muddled. It was so fucking confusing. I remember they would have these, you would have to understand what was going on with, and I thought at first it was just me. I was like, am I just like too dumb to follow this? Because I usually don't have any problem following plots. But you would have to go online and read breakdowns of everything to understand what was going on. It was so confusing.
I wasn't crazy about Vince Vaughn's performance. I felt like he was he was in this transitional phase where he's trying to break into serious roles. He's trying to get away from comedy. I don't think he was ready for that yet, because it just came off really forced and really like I took me out of it. I kept seeing Vince Vaughn.
I thought it came off just kind of flat.
Exactly. That's exactly what I meant. Yeah, flat and forced.
You know who I did like in that series, other than Colin Farrell, was Taylor Kirsch's character, the one who
John Carter, the guy from John Carter,
and he was like
good.
Former secretly gay Marine.
Yeah, the guy he's angry at himself, secretly gay Marine.
I liked his character though. That was an interesting little.
It was an interesting dynamic for sure.
But overall, not great. Season 1 obviously is like classic. You know, that could. You know, like if season 1 was a movie, that would be up there with all of the classics, I think.
So, speaking of Vince Vaughn, serious roles, things like that, have we talked about Brawl on Cell Block 99 yet?
Yes, that's the one where he's the bald guy. We talked about that when I was down in Pasadena, and I watched the trailer for it. And I'm glad I need to put a note in my phone because I've been meaning to watch that because I've heard his performance in that is like amazing.
It's spectacular. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen him do in anything. It is a fucking phenomenal movie. You just got to watch it. The action in it is raw and realistic, but also super gritty and really violent. The storyline is, how do I put this? It is gripping and kind of complex in a good way though. It's like it has a texture to it that keeps you interested, but it's just a twisted, crazy movie. It's definitely one of the best movies that I saw that year.
Okay, now the fact that you brought up that movie, that reminds me there was another movie I've been meaning to watch.
Bone Tomahawk?
That too. But there was another one that I haven't seen yet, and I don't think you've seen it yet either. But I saw the trailer for it last year, and I really wanted to go see it. I just never got to it. But this movie with Joaquin Phoenix. It's called You Were Never Really Here. Have you seen the trailers for that?
I haven't yet, but I've passed by that a couple times.
It's supposed to be really, really good, and he plays like an assassin.
What threw me about that is You Were Never Really Here. So is that like a play on that documentary about him? Was it I'm Still Here? Is that it?
Wait, did I get the names mixed up?
No, You Were Never Really Here. Was
no. It's got nothing to do with. It's
I know,
unrelated.
but
I'm Still Here was the documentary. Yeah,
I'm Still Here. Was it like kind of? Was it when that movie was named? Do you think that was in mind? Or,
I don't know. You know what's funny is it's funny you mentioned that because I never even thought about that. Never thought about that, but.
Because he lost his fucking mind, and you can see it in his performances since that since that movie
in
came.
I'm Still Here though, that was all a work. He was
They
doing
said that, dude, but that was
he was doing like a social experiment.
that's what they said, but I don't know that that's true, dude. Like that was said like that theoretically that was said to cover up his behavior and get his
You
life
think
back
that?
on track.
Because I know.
Did you see how nuts he was, dude?
I do. I
Like
remember.
that was
But I remember. Here's my opinion on it. I remember watching that, and I remember thinking as I was watching it, because look,
if I lost my mind and did a documentary where I tried to become a rapper and I got like fat and crazy and started like doing drugs and hookers and shit on film, and you were Casey Affleck, would you come out and be like, and I want to get my life back together? You'd be like, hey, it was this was a social experiment.
I think it was a failed social experiment. I think that I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, and I could spot a work from a mile away, brother. And a work is when somebody.
I believe there were elements of that.
There might have been elements of that character that he was pretending to be that were real. Here's when I knew it was fake. When he had the meeting with Puff Daddy. When he had the meeting with Puff Daddy, I knew it was fake.
Why?
I just knew. You could just tell. There was something about it where you could just tell that Joaquin Phoenix is way too smart of a guy to not be self-aware enough to realize how absurd that scenario is.
All I know is when he came back to acting and making movies after that, he was not the same. He looked like he looked like he had a stroke or something. Like,
he definitely looked weathered for sure.
Like
he started picking kind of random. He did different choices after that. Like
The Master. Do you remember The Master?
The Master, where he was
that was a hard to watch movie.
Off all the time.
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson, man, it's weird because Boogie Nights is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Magnolia, except I wasn't into the ending. But then he just the movies I don't like by him, I really don't like. Like I saw Phantom Thread last year.
I remember you told me about that one. Yeah.
Don't ever go see Phantom Thread. It fucking sucks. I hated this movie with a passion. But he has other movies, like I said, Boogie Nights, top 10, one of my favorite things ever.
Mm-hmm.
Probably my favorite dramatic comedy of all time, Boogie Nights.
And I was at a bar. I was at the Blind Donkey, and Boogie Nights was on the TV, and I was like, "Huh, it's an interesting choice." I was like, "What is that?" I was like, "That's Boogie Nights. It's about it's about a guy with a magical dick."
Dirk
Diggler.
And that's why that was the first movie where you really got to see John C. Reilly's comedic genius.
Mm-hmm.
Despite my scathing reviews of Holmes and Watson.
Look, as bad of a movie as that could be,
John C. Reilly
and Will Ferrell are fucking great.
Still,
comedians.
yeah.
We're not gonna say that just makes them bad at comedy.
Yeah,
just, like,
but I think that John C. Reilly, even all the stuff he did with Will Ferrell, I still think that his best comedic work is in Boogie Nights.
Yeah,
I love all of his lines in that movie. How he wants to do magic. How he asks Dirk how much he benches, and he instantly benches more, even though John C. Reilly doesn't look like he's ever even looked at a weight set. Like there's just a lot of really funny little things like that in that movie.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a classic. Yeah.
But yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, kind of a weird dude. But anyways, the thing with Joaquin Phoenix, yeah, you were never really here. I thought it looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Though he definitely changed after that. After I'm Still Here, and he started picking some weird roles.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it was him trying to be more artistic, or just more of a. I don't know. Some people kind of make that shift in their careers where they try to turn into kind of the artsier type.
I'm not buying it. I think he
thinks that Joaquin Phoenix has lost his mind.
I think he's fucking out of his mind.
Real life. There's a theory like that going around online right now where because he's playing the Joker in that Todd Phillips movie.
Yeah, it looks horrible. I saw
well, there's some theories online where people are saying that Joaquin Phoenix is basically a real life Joker.
Yeah.
The guy who lost his mind.
Yeah, I could see it, but I saw the trailer for that. I thought it looked like shit. I think it looks fucking terrible. And
I don't think it looks think it looks great, but I also think it looks many, many times better than Jared Leto's interpretation.
Sure. Great. Yeah, I think anything.
I mean,
Jared
anything
Leto's
could look better
interpretation.
than that. But
Uh,
it's like at this point, what do you do with the Joker? The Joker's been done so many
it
times.
has.
That's the
Well,
good thing about the Joker character is it's versatile and it lends itself to that. But
yeah, there's a lot of
um,
variations of the Joker. I feel like the one that they were trying to get to with the Jared Leto Joker was that like gang leader, tatted up fucking Joker. But that one was more of like
that
a
was like Lil Joker.
huh?
Lil Joker. That was like Lil Joker,
Little
home.
Joker from the hood. Little
It
Joker
was
from
like
the
Lil
block,
Joker
dog.
from the West Side, man. I don't even know what that
Yeah.
accent was.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, dude. But yeah, no, I mean, like from the comics, there was like a tatted up like gang leader Joker, but he was more like Yakuza style. Like he had like a dragon tattoo on his back and shit. Like he didn't
Yeah.
look like that little skinny, twerpy fucking Jared Leto Joker.
I don't know if I'd say skinny twerpy. He got pretty beefed up for that role,
Did he?
right?
Did
I think
he?
he did. He wasn't
Did he?
like he wasn't like Ben Affleck in Batman or Henry Cavill as Superman beefed up, but like
I'm gonna stick with skinny.
uh, will anybody ever top Heath Ledger's interpretation?
No, that was so masterful. That was ridiculous.
That was a brilliant mix of masterful, great performance, perfect place, perfect time. Like it's just sometimes you have those things where
They
everything
had to
comes
kill him
together.
after that.
Yeah.
They had to. There was
Well,
no like after a performance like that, where there was like just shifted the tides, like blowing everybody's mind. They had to kill him.
You know what underrated Batman villain I would like to see brought to the big screen again, but done correctly, is Mr. Freeze.
Sure.
Um,
Why
I
not?
went back and I've been watching some clips of the old Batman the Animated Series cartoon, and he was probably my favorite villain on that show. They did such a good job with Mr.
Mhm.
Freeze on that show, making him
Right.
like sad, like just kind of weird character.
It's all these gems in those old shows. Those just moments of like deep thought and reflection in the characters that we didn't grasp it when we were children watching it. And
Yeah.
nowadays it seems that that's lost in the art of
When I was a kid, that shit was boring. I was like, get to
Right.
the action. I don't want to see this. And now it's reversed. I could skip through the action and just watch those scenes.
yeah, watch all the character development and all these comic book characters. It's weird how introspective villains are in comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're usually the
Sure.
ones that have like the deeper stories or the deeper like
Well-
insights on life.
Speaking of introspection in comics or just anything in general, I just reviewed Daredevil season 3, and that was one of the things I mentioned in it was that what makes Daredevil as a series so good is how flawed they make Matt Murdock, Daredevil's character, come
Yeah.
across. He's not confident. He doesn't come off as some big brooding like badass. He's like super flawed, super unsure of himself. Every single episode he questions whether or not what he's doing is right.
Yeah.
He just comes off as this insecure like shell of a human being.
Yeah.
And that's what makes that show so effective.
Right.
Same thing with the Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin character.
Yeah.
I said in that review that I wrote that he might have overtaken, in my opinion, Heath Ledger's Joker as the best, my favorite villain interpretation ever.
I did read that, and I mean, obviously, that's up to individual perspective. I don't think I would go that far, but he was amazing. He was he did a really good job as Wilson Fisk.
Well, and it's hard to compare to because Heath Ledger's Joker is more like, because it's a movie, it's more like this bombardment that got shot out of a cannon of a character, whereas Wilson Fisk, it's done over the course of 3 seasons now, so it's
much more subtle.
It's a more yeah. So it's it's a kind of an unfair comparison in some ways because they're totally different. But
they're also wildly different characters. They're completely like to compare. They're apples and oranges to compare. Like the way that they're displayed. Like the Joker is a much more visceral character. Like his
Exactly.
his very
They're kind of
theatrical
opposite.
and-
They're
yeah.
opposite in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Because the Joker, like you said, Joker is visceral. Joker is really what makes the Heath Ledger's Joker so brilliant is you have no backstory on him.
Yeah.
You know nothing about him. He's just this like enigmatic force.
Mhm.
Whereas with Kingpin, you know everything about him. You can see every little insecurity and anxiety that he has, like
Right.
in his eyes as he acts on them.
And that actor, what's his name, Vincent D'Onofrio or D'Onofrio?
D'Onofrio, I think.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's a great actor. He's like one of the greatest actors that's been around forever that nobody knew who he was for the longest time.
Yeah, because he was way back in he was in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, he was Private Pile in Full Metal
Yeah.
Jacket. He was the killer on the cell.
Mm-hmm. He's been around forever.
Yeah. He's been on a lot of shitty things too. That's a funny thing. Like he was on
Yeah.
Escape Plan.
Oh, okay, he's been around that long, you know.
Yeah,
Not
no.
everybody's Tom Cruise, all right.
Only good movies. Only good movies. I respect no actor that's been in any bad movies ever.
Did you see Daredevil season 3 or parts of it?
I did. Yeah, it was very good.
The guy who played Bullseye blew me away.
Yeah,
they fucking nailed Bullseye.
He was great.
No pun intended. They fucking that
absolutely
character
intended that pun. The same way
first
I
of
intended
all,
the pun I dropped earlier.
First of all, that guy looks like Bullseye from the comic.
Yeah.
Like he looks just like him.
They just have to get him that really fucking lame outfit that Bullseye wears.
I know. Well,
Bullseye has one of the worst costumes in comics.
He does have a horrible
out
costume.
there. It's so fucking lame.
But I like what they did in this series is they didn't give him the costume. They end up making him Daredevil's doppelganger, and he wears the Daredevil outfit, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Which I've always liked that in series. I like when because they've done that in other series before where the villain will become like an imposter version.
He was reverse Daredevil, like how
Reverse
Reverse Flash.
Well,
is.
what I was specifically thinking of was my favorite Spider-Man comic of all time is Kraven's Last Hunt, and in that comic, Kraven he hunts down Spider-Man, he tranquilizes him, and he decides that it's not enough to kill Spider-Man.
He has to have sex with him.
No, yeah, he cornholes Peter Parker. No, he decides that he needs to best because Kraven's last thing, it's like competition. He needs to best Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So he subdues Spider-Man, and then he takes on the Spider-Man mantle. And Kraven just goes around New York City beating the shit out of bad guys and like fighting crime. And it sounds like a stupid story, but it's one of the best comics you'll ever read.
No, it actually, I totally get that. And I always liked those, the types of villains who they don't have like world domination or giant aspirations. They have that more of like individual psychological drive, like how Kraven, you said he's all about competing. He has to be better than this person, or he just hates this person. I just like those more individualized stories
for sure, because anytime a story becomes more, it's kind of for the same reason why did I hate Venom, because the fucking villain just wants to like conquer the world, right? Anytime you take a character, whether hero or villain, and make it more personal and more individualized, they become instantly more relatable.
Right. It becomes more emotionally relatable. And like the bigger the spectrum becomes, it becomes more political and more convoluted, and you become less connected to the story. All of a sudden it's like a fucking government drama when we're trying to watch fucking a superhero battle a supervillain.
It's the mistake they made with Star Wars, the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
The original Star Wars was the very personal story of Luke Skywalker and his family. And then you get into these new prequels and they have these fucking political meetings going on for half the movie, and like it just
I can't stand it.
They're horrible. The only good thing about that specifically the first one is the fight scene with the Darth Maul, I think is still pretty cool.
Yeah.
But they didn't have enough. That was the problem with that movie, though. There wasn't enough Darth Maul. That was such a cool villain, and they wasted it.
That's true. It's such a fucking. We've talked about Darth Maul before. We talked about Ray Park and all his exploits. What a cool character, dude. Like, yeah, they definitely should have done more with that. Sure, he cut Qui-Gon Jinn in half.
No, he
got cut in half.
He got cut in half. He impaled
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon Jinn. Yeah,
he should have cut Qui-Gon Jinn in half.
He should have.
That'd have been cool. if they cut each other in half? What if they cut
Yeah.
each other in half at the same time? That'd have been fucking dope.
I feel like,
And then
I was
they
gonna say,
fall.
is there
They
a
fall
movie
down the
where they
pit,
do that?
and his upper body falls onto Qui-Gon Jinn's lower body, and Qui-Gon Jinn's upper body falls onto
So
his
then they
legs,
create like
and
some
they
kind of
just
new
create these,
Sith
and then they
Jedi
keep
hybrid.
fighting as
It'd be
they
like
fall down the
Qui-Gon
pit.
Maul, Qui-Gon
Qui-Gon Maul.
and
Yeah.
Darth Jin.
Those are cool names, Qui-Gon Maul and Darth
You could
Jin.
easily do that.
All right, so we're gonna
It
start
made- that-
writing.
that
We're
made
gonna
me
start
think
writing Star Wars fan fiction. And,
it sounds like we're on the right path.
it'll be the eternal battle of Qui-Gon Maul and Darth Jin.
Darth Jin. We should. That kind of reminds me of Dewey Cox when he. Have you seen Dewey Cox Walk Hard where he cuts his brother in half?
I cut my brother in half.
That's like wrong kid died. Speaking of, since we're on this topic of, well, we're actually not on the topic at all. But
We're not on any topic. We are freeballing out in space here. This could be
The
anything.
new Spider-Man trailer, Far From Home.
No, I didn't.
They unveiled Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
Oh shit! I forgot about Mysterio.
They have Sam Jackson's in the trailer. He somehow teams up with Peter Parker.
Samuel Jackson is still didn't he disappear on Infinity War?
That's the whole thing that people are speculating on.
Everybody disappeared. How are they bringing all these people back?
They're speculating whether or not this movie takes place prior to Infinity War, after. They don't really know.
Really interesting that they chose Jake Gyllenhaal to play a professional wrestler like Rey Mysterio.
That was one of the first
that's a
things
strange thing to
but yeah, Mysterio, they have Mysterio, and then they have some other villains that are kind of, you can't really identify who they are. It looked to me like it was Hydro Man, Sandman, and Molten Man. But there's other people speculating that it could be these other villains from the Marvel universe. I can't remember the names of them. But I think it was Hydro Man, Molten Man, and Sandman, possibly.
I like Sandman. That's a very versatile and difficult to fight character. If you think about that, there isn't really like an easy way to attack a creature like Sandman.
If Hydro Man fought him, he could just splash him with water and turn him into Mudman.
Yeah, but then you're dealing with Mudman. It's basically the same problems.
Then he becomes Clayface.
Which is a whole new set of issues.
Yeah.
Then he has to cross over to DC and deal with much more angsty superheroes.
Then the waters get very
and
muddy,
so to speak. No pun intended.
But the trailer, it looked okay. It wasn't like overwhelmingly good, but I don't think they could really show you that much because of all of the post-Infinity War stuff. And I don't know whether or not that movie comes out before or after Avengers Endgame. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up.
Avengers Endgame comes out in April?
Late April, yeah.
April, so yeah, we already talked about this. It's going to be before the marathon, which I have to get fucking back on my feet and start training for that because
it comes out after Avengers Endgame, so
yeah, it fucking better.
Get back on your feet and start training.
Well, I fucked my feet up those last couple of runs I did. I had to like ice my feet for like 2 weeks to get my
the mistake of hitting it too hard too soon.
Well, I didn't hit it too hard too soon. I had to finish that running challenge at the end of the year, so I had to do like 23 miles in 3 days, and I had really shitty running shoes. So since then, I've gotten better running shoes, but I've only been able to run like twice because I fucking did so much damage to my feet. They were fucking swollen. I was like at work limping around and shit. I felt fine. My conditioning and everything, my legs, my lungs and heart and everything were fine. But I just fucked my feet up bad.
I'm in the preparatory stage right now. I haven't actually even started running yet. I'm still just doing my general conditioning where I'm lifting weights. I'm on alternating days. I'm doing like a 3-day a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, full body strength training split. And then on alternating days, 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I'm starting off where I'm just going to do a month of jump roping bare feet just to get my feet and the kind of the spring of my feet a little more conditioned. And then I'm going to transition into running. Because one thing that I noticed last year, I wish I would have taken more time to do that at the beginning to to strengthen my feet a little more, because as I get deeper into my miles on the running, I always seem to run into the shin splint issue.
You see, I'm doing an alternating 3 and 3 a week day of training, switching off between beer and wine, and I'm with one
solid
rest day,
choice.
and then
Yes.
I'm trying to work my way up my conditioning to whiskey again, so that I can
All
really be
solid
ready.
choices. All solid strategies.
Mhm.
Um,
And I feel like, the thinner I keep my blood, the less inflammation I'll have in my feet. So,
you know what's funny is there's probably an article out there that supports that theory. Can almost guarantee it.
I'm sure somewhere out there, but I'm also certain that alcohol causes more inflammation than it reduces. So,
That's possible.
I mean, sure, it thins your blood out and everything, but sure it fucking constricts blood vessels and shit too. I don't know. There's probably something bad. Because there's so much sugar in it. It's got to be inflammatory.
It's most definitely inflammatory. I do know that.
Yeah.
I'm no expert, but I do know it's inflammatory.
Yeah. Oh, Matthew. Nobody knows more about things that are inflammatory than you.
Mm-hmm. You know what I used to do that was so gross is like when I would get super drunk, the next day I would wake up and I would just eat really shitty food all day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, I was so healthy during the week, and then I would have like this one day out of the weekend where I would just abuse myself profusely.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that when you get hungover, you wouldn't watch what you eat? You're probably like the only person in the world who ever did that, man. I bet no, I've never even met a person who eats Taco Bell when they're hungover.
Isn't it a vicious cycle though? Well, like you would think that you would want to be like, you know what? I had a lot of alcohol yesterday, probably wasn't good. Maybe I
I'm
need
gonna have a
to
green smoothie.
counteract that today. Nope, definitely not. You just continue.
No, you just don't give a fuck about anything. You wake up and you're just like, I feel horrible. I need to fill my stomach with some garbage and just bury my face in a pillow.
My go-to was Jack in the Box. And I would do 2 big cheeseburgers, no mayonnaise, 1 bacon and cheddar potato wedges, 2 tacos, and 1 order of jalapeno poppers with ranch. And Frank's Red Hot Sauce.
I would go to Taco Bell and I would get the beefy 5-layer burritos. I get like 6 of them.
Ew! Why? That's disgusting. You wouldn't want some diversity in there?
No. Just
if I went to Taco Bell, here was my go-to
fire sauce, just like gallons of fire sauce. I'd be like at the window, just like, give me fire sauce.
That is vile.
All you can give me.
If I hit Taco
all
Bell,
the fire sauce you could legally give me.
If I hit Taco Bell, I would go 1 double-decker taco Supreme, 1 Crunchwrap Supreme.
I would always get the Crunchwrap Supreme.
Crunchwrap Supremes were key for a hangover, especially if they had the volcano sauce.
Oh, dude. That was the best.
Yeah.
Why did they ever stop getting volcano sauce? That shit
volcano
was
sauce
fire.
was awesome.
Yeah.
I'd throw a nachos Bel Grande in there if I was feeling particularly saucy, and then maybe a chicken soft taco or 2.
Chicken soft taco?
Chicken soft taco.
I just never thought you were. I never thought you were the type, Matt.
I used.
Never mind. I misjudged you.
No, I used a chicken soft taco. Not for it was. This was by no means the central piece of my meal. It was more of a palate cleanser in between, because a lot of these.
It was like the ginger for your sushi.
Exactly, because the ingredients that you have in the nachos Bel Grande, the double decker taco, and the Crunchwrap Supreme are all the same. So I wanted something in between to kind of
See, to me, the beefy 5-layer burrito is like the fast food junk food equivalent of like a green smoothie. It's just a bunch of crap smashed together.
That's what I was gonna say.
You're just getting down.
It's the beefy 5-layer burrito is kind of like they have a bucket underneath the garbage disposal, and everything that the Taco Bell employees throw in there, they toss into that burrito.
They just roll it up in a fucking tortilla, and
that's what comes out. That's what you're getting with a beefy 5-layer.
There's nothing good about it. It's filling your stomach with all the grease, garbage, and that just add water beef that they have.
A weird thing about myself is I don't like when Here's what I didn't like about those really, really big burritos from Taco Bell. I don't like when all my ingredients get mixed together like that. I like when they're layered and I could see them. Because if they're all mixed together in like a mush, then it just feels like I'm eating like puke. Even though it tastes
Right.
identical, I like when they're separate.
Sure. Well, don't go to Taco Bell then, because basically you're eating puke.
That's the menu, essentially.
Yeah, the menu is different varieties of puke.
Yes.
It's like, here's a puke from a guy who ate a lot of Doritos. Here's a puke from a guy who ate a lot of burritos.
Those volcano tacos were good too.
Yeah. Anything with the volcano sauce, dude. Remember when they had the chicken Crunchwrap Supremes?
Yeah, I do.
Those were
really good.
fucking DEFCON. That was bomb.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm almost craving Taco Bell now that we're talking about it.
I'm here to ruin you.
I won't do it.
I've come to this podcast to send you on a on a downward spiral towards beer, whiskey, and Taco Bell.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna come see you. You're gonna have a big fat fucking gut.
I don't remember the
You're
last.
blown out, some puke on your shirt.
I could not tell you the last time I had Taco Bell. I don't even fucking remember. I really don't.
I mean, as reckless and out of control of a human being as I am, I really rarely eat fast food. Almost never.
I know the last thing I had fast food wise was Carl's Jr. a little while ago, and I got like their hand breaded chicken strips.
Now we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
but definitely, if I had a choice of fast food places, Carl's Jr. is definitely one of the top level. We had Matthew McConaughey come on as a guest spot.
Ooey gooey, itty bitty. Oh, so cheesy.
It was.
Yeah, Carl's Jr. is good.
It was
I
one
like
of the most
Wendy's.
erotic descriptions of a hamburger I've ever heard in my life.
Would you do Wendy's? Are you into Wendy's?
Wendy's isn't bad. Wendy's is doable. Hey, they're never frozen, and the beef
That's
patties
the
are
selling
square.
point.
Yeah,
I would take Wendy's over McDonald's. Is the last. I didn't even like McDonald's when I was younger.
No, I never liked McDonald's. Wendy's got the Baconator.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go wrong with that.
Frosties.
You know what you know what, the buns at Wendy's are really good. They like butter the fuck out of their buns.
Yeah.
Super buttery. They're really good.
Yeah.
Their
fries aren't very good from what I remember.
I can't remember their fries for the life of me, and that's not a good sign, I'm sure.
Remember when we were younger, there was always seemed to be a story of somebody like finding a finger in their Wendy's chili.
Yeah, I think it was the Wendy's. It was definitely the Wendy's chili that the finger story was from, or like, I found a whole baby chicken in my or something horrible like that.
I remember my mom always seemed to have like a friend who somehow knew had the recipe for Wendy's chili and could make it. Did you ever come across that?
No.
I remember there was like a
Wendy's chili, just basically Hormel chili. You just open up the can.
I don't know.
Microwave it,
but I remember there was a Wendy's chili recipe going around. It was actually really good. It tasted just like it.
I don't know.
I used to have a Frosty recipe too, where you would take like ice cream, milk.
You know what?
Quick.
Every time I had any kind of recipe for anything, it was like, this is exactly like, this is how it's made. Whenever we had it, it would never be anything like it. It was like this fucking shitty at-home version, watered down version of whatever we were fucking talking about. So like, I remember my mom one time, she was like, we used to watch a lot of Nickelodeon, so we wanted GAC, because GAC's,
GAC?
Then
that
my
was a parent's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
GAC was disgusting.
Yeah, my mom was like, we can make GAC. Here's a recipe that I found for it. So we got these fucking recipe cards to make our own GAC, and it was this fucking milky, like falling through your fingers, like liquid shit. It wasn't like the fucking sticky taffy like stuff that GAC was.
No,
it's completely fucking different.
There was a whole period in the 90s where all of those gross out like GAC and slime and
the Garbage Pail Kids era.
Yeah, all those really gross fucking dirty play toys floating around. There was that other stuff. I remember there was a stuff Nickelodeon I think came out with, and it was like little pieces of foam that were inside of like some.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like
you could
the
shape them and mold them into things.
yeah. It wasn't Gak. It was like the that was the other one that was like it was like Gak's cousin. Like it came in the same. It came in the same weird jar that Gak came in, that like star shaped jar that you opened up and you could pull it all out.
Why was it? Was it just Nickelodeon? Is that why slime in general was so big in the 90s?
Yeah, it was the Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah.
God, what was that other stuff that wasn't Gak?
I don't.
It was the same. It was the same material as Gak, but it had those little foam dots in it.
Yes. Yeah.
It was like the Stretch Armstrong generation.
That's what I was gonna say.
Like,
and then you had Stretch Armstrong. You had all those just weird. That just seemed to be really popular for some reason.
Yeah, it was a strange time.
It was pre-internet, so
yeah,
maybe
so
that
we had to play with what we were given. We couldn't find our own toys back then.
Can you imagine kids now? If you tried to show them Gak, they'd be like, "Ew, give me a fucking iPod. Get that away from me."
Yeah. I want to play with my iPad. I got Angry Birds on this.
I just spent 3 hours on Google, and they told me I'm gonna catch fucking malaria from that Gak and get that away from me. They don't want anything to do with that.
Look, I read all about all the psychological repercussions of playing with Gak. Like, you're fucking 7. What are you talking about?
That's an interesting thing to think about. There's probably some kids out there right now that are just like child geniuses just through shit they've read on the internet. They probably never even read a book.
I don't think reading anything
is going to make you a genius. But I mean,
I'm sure like
if you were to take a child genius of this era who has the access to all this information compared to a child genius of generations past, the kid now probably just dwarfs them because
that's the give and take with this technological revolution that we have going on with all the information that's available in the world is like we have avenues for genius to succeed. We have all these places for what would have been otherwise unallocated skills. Like there's ways for people to find that information.
Yeah.
Little fucking genius ass kid who's got an IQ of like 700. Just drop a little fucking iPad in that kid's hand and he's going to find out everything about the world,
Yeah.
There's no restriction to learning anymore.
No.
Whereas, back in the day, that kid would have to be that intellect would have to be discovered and then fostered, and that kid would have to be taught, and he would have to go to the library and look things up. It wasn't just available in his fucking living room.
Right. Yeah. Times are changing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, looking at the clock, I got to be at work soon.
Nah, just call in.
Unfortunately,
you could stay here with me forever.
Forever.
We'll have Taco Bell.
You could have Taco Bell. You could have Dragon Ball Z toys.
Yeah. Gak. I'll make you some Gak.
I wonder if you could probably find some brand new Gak on eBay.
For sure. There's probably warehouses full of Gak.
Yeah, because that was a short-lived trend. That didn't go on for very long.
Pogs, Gak, all that stuff is out there. We should, what we should do sometime whenever we make our studio for the Back and Bone show, we should completely deck it out in like 90s shit. Like make it look like a 90s room aside from the actual camera and computer equipment of like Pogs, Gak, and fucking classic like Dragon Ball Z toys and shit everywhere.
By the way, you can definitely buy Gak online. I just pulled it up on eBay. There's tons of unopened Gak.
Yeah.
Imagine it's got to be dried up by now, though.
Nah, dude, if it's sealed, why would it be dried up?
And if you want there's one that's a special like Nickelodeon glow in the dark Gak.
Yeah, they had glow in the dark Gak. I remember that.
That one's going for $44. But I think this guy's overcharging.
Jesus.
This is
about Silly Putty. You're just Silly Putty. Gak is like the gross Silly Putty. Silly Putty was never that gross.
Yeah, because Gak was
wet
and slimy and ugh. Yeah, you're right. Silly Putty wasn't as gross.
Yeah.
Man. I thought for a second maybe I had found that stuff we were talking about, but I didn't. Yeah. In any case.
We'll figure it out. I'll text you when I figure out what it is.
Yeah, we got to look into that. There's got to be a list online where they have like all of those.
Yeah. I don't know why. For some reason, I keep catching myself gazing into that odd beanie that you're wearing. I don't know. I'm trying to like.
It's like a circle,
I see that.
a half circle, and then like two halves of a circle stacked on top of one
Now, it's
another.
fascinating that you're describing to me what I am looking at, but what's really fucking me up about it is the asymmetry of it. There's no like pattern or anything. I get that they're all half circles arranged in different ways, but how it's just like, I don't know.
There is a pattern though, Keith. You just can't see it.
There's no pattern.
The pattern is
I've been staring. I've been
circular.
That's not what that means.
And
I've been staring at these circles for 2 hours now, and I can't figure this shit out.
I've tried to figure it out.
But
I don't know.
I hate it. If you ever wear that beanie on here again, I'm gonna fucking turn this thing off.
I've been complimented on this beanie multiple times, actually.
Yeah,
I'll have you know.
By people who appreciate asymmetry and fucking circles. I don't like it. Don't ever insult me with that beanie again, especially when you're wearing such a beautiful shirt.
I will. I'll pick a different beanie next time.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, it's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for joining us once again. Follow Matt Reviews Media and Matthew Paul Lovato on Instagram. And make sure you get signed up for the Back and Bone Show. Likes, follows, shares. Get us out there, people. Oh, we're animating.
I just did an anime buy.
All right. We did it. Anime buys. All right. Good night, guys.
Peace out, playa.